Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
No, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill. This is not a dream that you are waking up from. In fact, it is reality. I cannot believe the words that are about to come out of my mouth. The New York Mets have defeated the Atlanta Braves in 2025. It has happened. Can you believe it? I can't. I just never thought that it would happen at this rate, the way these first 5 games have gone. And yet, here we are. The Mets did it. I wish I had some party poppers and confetti and a piñata because, wow, that is exactly how it feels. It felt impossible for them to actually do it. Guys, what's up? I'm Tony Metro. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I do daily Mets content. We do a post-game recap after every single Mets game and all that jazz. Be sure to leave this video a like, really appreciate it. Goes a long way toward helping out the channel. You could also check in with me on all my other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Links to those all in the description below. And finally, something positive to talk about with the New York Mets tonight as they get the win and off the schneid versus Atlanta. If you want to call into the show right now and go live with me, you could do that. You just go down to the link for Discord that is in the description. You'll hop into my Discord channel over there, and then I'll throw you in live when we are ready to take phone calls. But guys, let's get into it. Can you believe it? The New York Mets pulling off, I think, the impossible. Who could have imagined that the Mets would ever beat the Braves in 2025? The way things had been going for this team, the first 5 with Atlanta, it was seeming more and more impossible by the day. But here we are. And thanks in large part, of course, to Juan Soto hitting 2 homers, including this one right here, his second bomb of the game. Mets already with a 6-1 lead in the game after a 5-run inning, but he started that 5-run inning back in the 4th. The Mets get contributions from Ronnie Mauricio, who hits his 3rd home run of the season. He also chips in 3 hits. You get a sac fly from Francisco Lindor, an RBI hit from Brandon Nimmo, and Clay Holmes again going out there and delivering a very nice high quality start for this team as the Mets again do finally get the win. Nico, what is up, my man? Yes, we finally got one. I'm shell shocked. Never would have believed the Mets actually would beat the Braves based on how these first 5 games of the season with Atlanta went, but happy that they finally got it. I mean, look, there's still a lot of problems with this team, right? There's still a lot of things that we're not just going to get better from after 1 win over Atlanta, but finally, hopefully this team has stopped the bleeding, right? You know, we thought maybe after the big thumping on Saturday against the Phillies where the Mets won 11-4, that would be a good jumping off spot for them and they could get back on track. But obviously then they lose Sunday. They lose the first 2 of this series with the Braves at Citi Field. And it was feeling like it was only getting worse. And hopefully this is finally that jumping off point for this team. And hopefully now they can go out tomorrow in the series finale and at the very least salvage a split. There's no way that you can fix the damage that has already been done to the Mets by losing the first 5 of the series with Atlanta and losing 2 out of 3 to Philly and everything else that has happened here over the last 2 weeks or so. But you can at the very least, salvage a series split with Atlanta tomorrow and steal a little bit of momentum away, right? They gained 5 games on us leading into today's game. Today we take 1 back, you win 1 back tomorrow, and in the end, they gained 3 games on the Mets at the conclusion of this 10-game stretch with Atlanta and with Philadelphia. Tiny wins. At this point, the Mets just have to be looking for small victories. And to me, tomorrow's game is a big one. The Mets find a way to win tomorrow, and at the very least, they were able to mitigate the damage, keep it as minimal as possible. Again, there's no erasing what the Mets have been over the last 2 weeks. It has been horrible. But at the very least, they guarantee they don't get swept in a 4-game series at home by the Braves. And if they could find a way to put it together tomorrow, well, then all of a sudden, at the very least, small victory. you walk away with a series split. And we all know when a team wins the first two of a 4-game series and then they end up losing the next two, it almost feels like you lost the series. So this could be a really good opportunity for the Mets to give the Braves a gut check now if they can go out and win Thursday's game as well. But I'm happy about it. I mean, good day from some of the young guys. Obviously, we know Soto with the 2 home runs. We know Clay Holmes, 5 really solid innings for this team, only run coming in on that solo shot from Drake. And other than that, pretty solid day for Holmes. The walks, still a little bit of an issue. We know he issued 6 walks against the Braves last week in Atlanta. And honestly, for tonight for him, honestly, credit it more to Atlanta's hitters just having such an amazing eye. Great plate discipline, really able to lay off the bad stuff. So I'm not super concerned about Clay Holmes's control or anything or command. It's more about, I think the Braves are just so good at laying off bad pitches out of the zone. So really all around positive feeling win from all the different areas of this team. Got a little dicey in the 9th inning because you wouldn't be the Mets unless you made it interesting in the end, right? So obviously we know that Pianta came in. I can't even remember his name right now off the top of my head, but they were able to score 2 runs off of him to get this a little closer. And then there were 2 men aboard there, but fortunately, the Mets able to close this one out and get the 7-3 victory. Let's go to the chat. Nico says, awesome. Everyday Mets. Who's getting sent down tomorrow for Vientos? D-Rails, what is up, my man? My guy, Tony. Appreciate you, D-Rails. You're my guy. Always in the stream, always bringing the heat, always keeping it real. And I really appreciate that about you, D-Rails. Let's see. Jimmy James C. I was sweating bullets watching through my fingers with a 7-1 lead going into the 9th. Glad to finally win one. Yeah, Jimmy. I mean, dude, that's the thing about this team. Like I just said, they can't go a night without making it interesting one way or the other, whether they have a big lead or whether they are trailing and making it close in the end. But yeah, I was watching through my fingers as well. I actually only could tune in there toward the end, and I was like, okay, let's wrap things up here. Acuna gets that 2-run single, and I'm like, oh my God, this could be in the pantheon of Mets losses if they don't close this one out. But fortunately, not the case. I want to go back real quick to Everyday Mets. Who's getting sent down tomorrow for Vientos? That is a very good question because Ronnie Mauricio has had really 2 solid games here now against the Braves. But unfortunately, it's either him or they're DFAing Jared Young. And I want to prioritize Ronnie Mauricio getting more consistent at-bats, getting everything he needs from AAA because I don't truly think he's ready for the big leagues yet. And I think the best move for Ronnie is to put him back in AAA. But yesterday, guy almost hits a 3-run homer yesterday in that 4th inning where they scored all their runs. Then ends up having an RBI double there in the 9th inning. And then today, 3 hits, including a homer to right field. So I don't know. I'm a little torn. I've been saying it for weeks. Ronnie needs, not weeks, but at least a week and a half. Ronnie's got to go back to AAA because I don't want to stunt his growth. He needs more time to develop down there in Syracuse. But really 2 impressive days for Ronnie at the plate, if you ask me. I still believe they are going to send him down, which is a double-edged sword. Because 1, I want Ronnie to get what is best for him. But 2, that is going to mean more Jared Young. So everybody get super excited for more Jared Young. You just know he's going to come. It's not really enjoyable, but I think that's how it's going to end up going. Let's see. D-Rail says Braves play the Phillies this weekend. Mets back in first by end of weekend. I like the sounds of that. That sounds like a deal to me. Of course, that means the Braves winning some more games, but that's kind of what we have to root for at this point. Philly losing. And fortunately, last I checked, the Phillies were losing. You guys might be able to see it at the top of the screen here. Philly was down 1-0 in Houston, and it is now 2-0 with 2 outs in the top of the 9th inning. So I'm going to just put it on here for you guys so you can keep an eye on it as well. But great news there. Philly's on the verge of losing the 2nd game in a row to the Astros. If that goes final, the Mets will gain a game on the Phillies and move to just a half game behind them in the National League East. So things coming up positive for the Mets. And it is a final in Houston. Ladies and gentlemen, the Phillies have lost to the Astros, a final score of 2-0. That coupled with the Mets 7-3 win over the Braves has now brought the Mets within a half game of first place once again in the National League East. So, I mean, guys, for all the negativity that we have been spewing and hearing and just enduring during this 12-game stretch. This is something we deserve. Finally, a good night for the Mets. A great night, obviously. You finally beat the Braves. First time in 6 tries this year. You get off of that schneid you were with on this little NL East gauntlet. And now the Phillies just lost to the Houston Astros. And the Mets gain a game, not only, of course, on the Braves, but a game on the Phillies, and are now just a half back in the NL East. So, good day. Good day, guys. It's a small victory, like I said, okay? We have had a lot of crap thrown at us over these last 2 weeks. I'm going to celebrate tonight, okay? I'm going to enjoy this, knowing that it's not the end-all, be-all, but for all of the crap that we have been experiencing over the last 15 days or so, I'm going to enjoy tonight for sure. As the Mets take care of business, Houston does some of our bidding. Really good all-around night for the Mets. Let's take a look. Nico, I think Ronnie will stay at second and Taylor and McNeil will swap at center. So when you say that, do you mean McNeil playing more center field instead of Tyrone Taylor and putting Ronnie at second? I don't really see that happening every day. Maybe more often just because Tyrone Taylor has not been hitting and producing at the plate. But Tyrone Taylor's defense is ridiculous. And Jeff McNeil is typically not. But that being said, Jeff McNeil climbing the ladder tonight and robbing a home run. I mean, it was all Mets today. And of all people that he could have robbed, it's Marcell Ozuna. Like, you can't have basically written this any better for a more happy, positive night for the Mets. But to your point, Nico, I could see the Mets trying to get McNeil's bat in there a little bit more, and that might mean cutting into some of the playing time for Tyrone Taylor out there in center field. But in the end, I think they're going to prioritize Tyrone Taylor's defense out there up the middle. But we shall see how that plays out. Let's see. D-Rail's Nike Shanae. That's not good. Oh, okay. You're talking to Nico. Sorry. Let's see. Everyday Mets, Phillies loss. Book it in the books. That's right. Put it in the books, folks. Soto with another two home run game. That is right. D-Rails. So another really impressive performance from Juan Soto. Let's actually just go and take a look at the box score really quick. So solid day for most guys in this lineup tonight. I mean, the lone exception, Francisco Lindor, and even Lindor, despite being 0 for 4, finds a way to contribute with a sacrifice fly as part of that bottom of the fourth where the Mets scored 5. But Brandon Nimmo with a base hit and an RBI single. Juan Soto, of course, 2 for 4, 2 RBI on 2 solo home runs, both out to the deepest part of the field in right center where they move the fences in over there. The dude just has raw power. He is absolutely on fire. He came through with a big home run on Tuesday. Couldn't do it again with first and third in the 8th inning of that one, but another impressive performance. Juan Soto has just been unstoppable in June. And I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head here. I will hopefully be able to pull them up here at some point during the stream. Actually, you know what? We might be able to just do it like that. So give me a second, but let's first run through the rest of this lineup. So you had Pete Alonso with a base hit in this one, scoring a run. 2 strikeouts from Pete. There's been a lot more striking out from Pete. That's becoming a little alarming for sure with him, but I trust that he will get back to himself and closer to what he was doing for the first 2 months of the season. Nice to see him at least get a knock in this one. McNeil with 2 more hits today. Starling Marte, even with an RBI hit and a sac fly in this one. And then Brett Beatty with 2 more hits today and an RBI single. So Beatty quietly starting to produce a little bit at the plate. It's uneven from him because usually you're going to get those 2 strikeouts mixed in there with every night that he does actually do something offensively. But again, guys, the whole point, positive night for everyone. And you cap it off with a 3-hit night from Ronnie Mauricio. And I didn't catch it, but this might have been Ronnie Mauricio's first 3-hit game of his career. I mean, obviously not a whole ton of experience, but I think that might have been the first 3-hit game for Ronnie in his young major league career. And of course, the home run as well, his 3rd of the season. Even had Aiden Sanger getting in on the action, 1 for 4 in this game. So really, really happy about everything, guys. You know, there's no complaints from me. You get a really solid performance from Clay Holmes. Again, 4 more walks in this one. He did 6 walks last week in his start against the Braves, and that was really his undoing. And like I said before, I think I credit the Braves lineup for being so patient and selective and able to lay off pitches out of the zone more than I am concerned about Clay Holmes' command. But he gets the job done. Back-to-back starts of 5 innings for Mets starters. They hadn't done that for almost 2 turns through the rotation before then. So hopefully we are getting back on track with the starting pitching. Nice to see a good offensive output as well from this lineup. So let's see. Two Cats says, nice to see the Astros still own the Phillies 2022 World Champions, baby. Smoking the Yankees 4-0 in the ALCS that year. Great year besides the Mets losing. 100%, man. I love that. Philly fans got so much credit for making Citizens Bank Park electric. You're like, okay, yeah, why? Because they sang that dopey song for Bryson Stott or whoever it was. Okay. And then they blew a 2-1 lead in the World Series. And of course, like you said, along the way, sweeping the Yankees, who were absolutely hapless in that 2022 ALCS. Yep. Love it, Two Cats. But thank you to the Astros for helping us out a little bit tonight, helping the Mets gain a game on Philadelphia. Guys, how are you feeling right now? What are your emotions about this? Do you feel relieved that the Mets finally were able to take down the Braves? That is how I would say I'm feeling. And not because I think that we could go out and beat them every time now. Definitely not. But it almost felt like they had to get this monkey off their back. That if they did get swept by Atlanta in this 4-game series, after having gotten swept by them at their park last week, it might be something they wouldn't be able to shake the rest of the year. But now that they at least got this one, I'm feeling like it could be that jumping off point for this team where they now correct course and get back on track. I think it really largely, though, does depend on tomorrow's result. I do think the Mets need to win tomorrow, salvage that split, leave Atlanta with a bad taste in their mouth, and hopefully it's something that the Mets can then build on as they go throughout the rest of the schedule, round out the end of the first half. So, guys, drop it in the chat. How are you guys feeling right now about tonight's win? Let's see. Derails. Lindor got robbed of a homer by Harris. Yes, that is correct. Harris with that catch very nearly robbed Soto before that in that same inning. And then he does rob Lindor of what would have been a 2-run homer. So, again, hitless in the box score, but still a solid day for Lindor swinging the bat tonight. The RBI line out, which, I mean, he smoked to left field. And then, of course, the home run that was robbed by Michael Harris in center. So not taking anything away from Francisco Lindor's night. The box score obviously just doesn't reflect it as well. Let's see. Absil says, Juan Soto hits a home run in pairs. He did it 4 times already this year and 27 times in his career. Sheesh, I did not realize Juan Soto has as many multi-home run games as he has. Has he ever had a 3-home run game? If anybody could try to figure that out for me, if they know off the top of the head, I'm curious. You would have to imagine that Soto's had at least 1 3-homer game in his career, right? I mean, that'd be kind of surprising if he hasn't. But yeah, he hits them in bunches. 100% on the money there, Absol. Robert Lubinacci, we win tomorrow. That's called a winning streak. That's right. What was the name of the manager in Major League? I can't think of his name right now. Tonight you win. If we win tomorrow, that's called a winning streak. Yeah, that's pretty spot on right there, Robert. That's what the Mets need to hear in this clubhouse now. Put them all together and, you might have a little something to show for it at the end. Jimmy James C, we have the back part of the Braves rotation and Pittsburgh without Skeens coming up. Let's get 5 straight dubs. I love that energy out of you, Jimmy James. 100%. Mets with a chance to hopefully correct course, like I said. You win tomorrow with the back end of the Braves rotation, and then you got a weekend with Pittsburgh. No Paul Skeens. Golden opportunity for the Mets to very quickly get back on track. So hopefully that's the blueprint the Mets can follow, because if there's anything that I have learned here in the last 2 weeks about this team, it's that anything that can go wrong with the Mets very likely will. So let's just take it day by day, but I like that energy. Easy weekend, hopefully in Pittsburgh, you would imagine, and hopefully tomorrow with the back end of the Braves rotation, the Mets can salvage this series split, which, like I said, when you win the first 2 games of a 4-game set, and then you end up losing the last 2, it feels like you lost the series, right? We've all been there as Mets fans, right? You win the first two, you're thinking, oh, we're going to easily win 3 out of 4. We might even sweep. But then you lose the last two and you leave the stadium thinking, man, it feels like we just lost that series. So I really love that type of mentality for this Mets team. So let's see. Two cats, Acuna, Ozuna, Harris, Strider, acting like tough guys yesterday. Orlando Arcia when they had him. Biggest clown team I've ever seen and still way behind in third place. LMAO. Yeah. Braves fans are coming at me on TikTok right now, a little bit here on YouTube as well, because I posted a video saying that I would throw at Ronald Acuna, and I didn't mean it to injure him, but I meant 99 right in between the numbers on the back. Textbook way of taking care of business when a guy on the other team is disrespecting you or the game of baseball, right? All these Braves fans came out of the woodwork saying that I don't know ball and that I'm a clown and that Acuna owns us and he's our daddy. That's not the case at all. These dudes prance around like they own the park. And you know what? I just like to have a little bit of an edge, send a little bit of a message to them and let them know it ain't going to be that easy. We're not going to grovel at your feet. And let's not forget, everybody, if you have any Braves fans in your life, just remind them all those NL East titles, and they still only have 2 World Series championships in Atlanta. So you don't count the ones in Boston, you don't count the ones in Milwaukee, only the ones in Atlanta. And despite, 12 consecutive NL East titles from the early mid-90s to the mid-2000s, 2 total World Series to show for it. And one of them came in 2021, wasn't even part of that National League East dynasty that they had. So keep Braves fans in check. They need that ego check sometimes. We as Mets fans, we know where we stand, but we don't puff our chests out the way Braves fans do, as if they're some amazing organization. Sure, they always make the playoffs, but they never win a World Series. So 2 in about 60 years. Same as the Mets. We're right on par with them. Let's see. Two Cats says, I will say I respect the Phillies lineup a lot like those guys. I don't have any beef with any of the Phillies. None of them show up the Mets pitchers. None of them have any type of antics that bother me. I don't think they're as good. I am far more fearful of the Braves lineup than I ever am of the Phillies lineup. But I don't think I ever get those kind of vibes from the Phillies lineup. They don't really seem to bother me. Here's that Drake. Look at this guy. I didn't even remember seeing this dude hopping over. I think he's going to get ejected. That dude that tried to just jump out of his seat into the batter's eye and pick up that ball on the fly. I'm pretty sure he gets ejected for that 100%. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Got to pay $5,000 in fines for this. You probably don't even get to keep the ball. He even dropped it on the bounce. What a clown, dude. Come on, man. You got to have that one. But really, it was a solid performance for Clay Holmes tonight. That home run from Drake notwithstanding. And then, of course, Soto gets the Mets right back in front with his solo shot right here out to right center field. Can you believe when they first configured Citi Field, that would not have been a home run? That right there would not have been a home run when they first had the original walls and dimensions at Citi Field. Like, what were the Wilpons thinking? And that's not even taking into account left field that was like 18 feet high and would die in front of the wall every single time. I mean, such a weird configuration when they first opened this ballpark. They've done a much better job of making it more fair to both pitchers and hitters, but that is wild to think. Here's Jeff McNeil with his RBI double. I'm sorry, it was not an RBI double, but his double that put 2 runners in scoring position. And then it was Starling Marte with the sac fly into deep center field to score Pete. Jeff McNeil would come around on Brandon Nimmo's RBI single, and then the sac fly later from Francisco Lindor. So really, Brett Beatty's RBI single. I got it all mixed up. But yeah, I'm pumped, guys. I mean, I'm not saying that World Series is back on, but I think this was something the Mets needed to do to get rid of the voodoo behind the Braves and their devil magic. The Mets had to see one to actually believe they could beat this team. And they finally did it. I'm happy about it. I'm only going to take it as one win because that's all it is, though. And I really do believe that tomorrow's game is very important. The Mets show up and that they win again, especially with a back end of the rotation starter going for the Braves. the Mets should be able to salvage the series split and head into Pittsburgh with some good vibes, potentially, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but potentially with a half-game lead in the National League East, back in our rightful spot in first place in the National League East standing. So, guys, what are you thinking? Let me know in the chat. If you guys want to do calls into Discord, I will monitor that, see if we're going to have anybody that wants to join the show. Again, if you've not done that before, it's very simple. You just go over to my Discord. The link is in the description below. You head over to that, and then I will pop you in, and you could be part of this live show right now. Sound off, say anything you want about the Mets. Just please keep it PG-13. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. But I'm pretty happy about this win tonight. Let's see. Ben Early. Jared Young has 7 hits this season. Mauricio had 3 tonight. Even though he struggled so far, the Mets really should get rid of Young instead of Mauricio, at least until Winker gets back. All right. So my thing is, I just believe the Mets are going to prioritize Ronnie Mauricio's development over what they're getting from Jared Young. And I also don't want to get too wrapped up in what Mauricio did tonight. Yes, he had a 3-hit game, and I forgot Lindor got robbed on that liner to Austin Riley too. That is one of the toughest 0 for 4s you may ever see. Poor Francisco Lindor deserved so much better than what the box score shows for him tonight. But getting back to the Mauricio Jared Young debate when Vientos comes back tomorrow, I think the Mets are sending down Ronnie. And I think it's similar to what they're doing with Francisco Alvarez and with Ronald Acuna, or Luis Angel Acuna. They don't want to jeopardize this guy's future. They want to make sure he's getting every day at bats. And despite a 3-hit game tonight, despite an RBI double yesterday, very nearly hitting a home run yesterday, I believe that the Mets don't know that Ronnie Mauricio is ready for the big league level yet. And who could blame him? Hasn't played in a year and a half. Recovered from the ACL tear that he had in the Winter Ball League in the Dominican Republic. Then ended up missing another extra half a year because of the offseason and not recovering well from that surgery on his ACL. I think the Mets are going to send him back to AAA and just continue on with Jared Young, unfortunately. I don't know that I approve of it, except in terms of I'm glad that they're going to do what's best for Ronnie Mauricio, but I could be wrong. Maybe they do DFA Jared Young. Today, they DFA Dickie Lovelady after his lone and only performance last night in which he gave up 2 runs, and they pulled the plug on Jose Castillo as well. Both those players designated for assignment today before the Mets win over the Braves. So I think David Stearns did this a lot last year. You're not performing. Goodbye. Here's the door. We will find somebody else. I do appreciate that about Stearns. He is not afraid to cut bait with other guys. What I've been frustrated by is that he has not brought in good enough players that will stick. And I'd like to see that happen sooner than later, especially in the bullpen and especially as it pertains to Jared Young. The dude's got to go. So we'll see how it goes. 7 hits, though, on the year. Like Ben Early says, 3 alone tonight for Ronnie Mauricio. So I don't know, man. It's one of those things. It's catch-22. You want the guy that maybe is going to give you a little bit better chance for a hit in Ronnie, but you're risking his future, or do you just roll with Young until Winker gets back? I don't know. What would you guys do? Do you DFA Jared Young, or do you send Ronnie Mauricio down to AAA when Mark Vientos returns to the team after tomorrow night's game? Let me know in the chat over here. 2 cats already popping off. My hope is that Vientos can come back like last year as a beast and McNeil can keep up and they somehow pick up another bat so we have a solid 7 hitters and not easy outs from 5 through 9 every time. Well, that was the big bugaboo for this team. Obviously, the Mets 6 through 9 hitters have been really crappy this year. It's been rough. I told you the numbers the other day. They've changed a little bit since then, but probably not too much. But 228 average, 293 on base percentage, and a 350 slugging percentage. That's a 643 OPS and an OPS plus 73. That's 27% below league average from the 6, 7, 8, and 9 spots in the Mets lineup so far, all combined. They have combined up until yesterday's game. I don't have those stats or today's, but for 26 homers and 104 RBIs over 4 spots in the lineup. It's been unacceptable. So I'm with you, Two Cats. The Mets absolutely need another bat. 100%. Where is it though? I don't know. We heard from John Heyman today on the trade rumors that Jared Duran is looking slim to the Mets, were his words. So let's see if we can actually find that article. We'll do a little bit of trade deadline targets. Who do you guys want at the trade deadline? We'll talk about it right here. I'll actually share my screen right over here on the side so you guys can see everything I'm seeing here. All right, perfect. So Heyman said in one of his articles earlier today that it is looking slim that Jared Duran would go to the Mets. So I don't know if that's because the Mets aren't super interested in Jared Duran or if the Red Sox are not interested in trading him, period. But I kind of am not disappointed by that, if I'm being honest. I really don't think Jared Duran is going to fix these problems, especially with the year that he is having. OPS is like at 715. He had 23 homers a few years ago, but hasn't come close to that this year. So I don't know if I'm selling out for Jared Duran, who's going to cost a lot at this year's deadline. But I'm thinking third base is the way to go. I think you hand the DH reins to Mark Vientos. You hope that he takes it. And if he doesn't, well, you still have Jesse Winker to platoon with, and you still got Starling Marte on this roster. And then you find a third baseman. And we've talked about Eugenio Suarez, and we've talked about, Ryan McMahon from the Rockies, but really the guy I am dreaming about is Alex Bregman. And unfortunately, here is some news that might put some cold water on that. According to John Heyman here on Insider Central on MLB TV, Alex Bregman opened to contract renegotiations with Red Sox. So we know he had a 3-year, $120 million deal with the Sox. He can opt out after this season and after next season. That's a $40 million AAV. I don't know that the Red Sox would trade him, but if they continue to fall out of this race, like they have been lately, pretty much since they traded Rafi Devers, I would be banging on the Sox door to swing a blockbuster for both Alex Bregman and Aroldis Chapman. That is a power move that I think puts the Mets right back in the forefront to being the front runners in the National League East. We're talking then about a lineup of Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, Juan Soto, Alex Bregman, Pete Alonso, however you want to match those first 5 names. And then you still got whatever Mark Vientos is able to provide as the designated hitter, whatever you're going to continue to get, hopefully from Jeff McNeil, and hopefully Francisco Alvarez comes back and provides anything. But at the very least, you should be good defensively with Luis Torrens and Hayden Sanger behind the plate. Center field, Tyrone Taylor, Jose Siri, if he ever comes back. I'm not even sure he's a real person at this point, but solid defense up the middle from that lineup right there. So that's how I feel about it, guys. What do you think? Who would be your number 1 trade target for the Mets at the deadline? A lot of people I feel like are going to say Jared Duran. I am sticking with my guns here. If the Red Sox do end up selling, I want Aroldis Chapman, and I'm begging for Alex Bregman, even though I know it's probably a pipe dream. So, guys, what is going on? How are we feeling today after a nice 7-3 victory that even with that final score had to be a little too close for my liking, with it 7-3 and Matt Olson getting that walk to put 2 men aboard, but the Mets able to fortunately put that inning to bed and finally oust the Braves for the first time here in 2025. So Red Sox are 40-42. They are 7 games behind in the AL East. I don't see why they would sell, if I'm being totally honest with you. Like, 7 games is not insurmountable. The difficult part is that they have 3 teams in front of them. Of course, the Yankees in first, and then the Rays and the Blue Jays. You forget about the Orioles. What a dumpster fire Baltimore has been. But the American League wild card, probably they're not all too far out of that one either. Let me pull up AL wild card standings real quick, and I'll show you guys this as well, so we can kind of get an idea of who might be selling, who might still be hanging in there late. I mean, it's a bad sign when the LA Angels are ahead of you in the wild card standings, okay? Like, that's usually not a good sign. The Angels are 40-40, man. Who would have thought? Good for them. I hope they pull it all together and they really make a run. That would be super sick to see. But Boston is 2.5 games back at the final wild card spot with 4 teams in front of them, including 2 of them in their own division. So I don't know if they're going to be selling or not. I mean, it is mediocrity in the American League. And meanwhile, the NL is like that meme of all the dragons, the super tough looking ones. And then the middle one is like all dopey looking. That's the American League. Like, just an absolute travesty, right? The teams in the American League wild card, the final wild card spot, Seattle Mariners at 41-38, a .519 winning percentage. Meanwhile, the Brewers, 45-36, .556 winning percentage with the final wild card spot in the National League. So I don't know who's selling yet. I know we can guarantee Pittsburgh is, Colorado is, Miami is. I'm thinking Washington, if they have any veterans that are interesting, but off the top of my head, I really can't think of many veterans on that team outside of Josh Bell, who is not someone that interests me whatsoever. But then over in the American League side, Chicago, of course, Oakland, who again has a pretty young team, not a ton of veterans. You know, one guy would be maybe like Miguel Andujar, but he's not a great fielder anyway, so that is not a solution to me at third base. Baltimore, mostly a young team, and then Minnesota, who's really been going through it, just like the Mets, 2-8. And Kansas City might sell as well. We've talked about Seth Lugo on this channel, maybe reuniting with him to bolstering this rotation. But I'm focused mainly on bats. I'm focused mainly on trying to get a third baseman from one of these teams. I'm going to pull up Ryan McMahon's stats here in a second, but sound off in the chat, guys. What do you think? Who should be the number 1 target for the Mets at this year's deadline? I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We only just finally won 1 against the Braves tonight, but I'm feeling positive about things. I'm happy they got the win. The Phillies lost to the Astros. Mets are a half game behind now in the NL East. I'm going to think positively tonight, so do not rain on my parade, or I will be very upset by that. Let's see. Two Cats says, what do you think we'd have to give up for Bregman and Chapman? That is a very good question there, Two Cats, because I'm throwing out these trades as if don't even have a care in the world without thinking about what it would potentially cost the Mets. So let's just pull up the Mets top prospects real quick. And just for the simplicity of it, I'm going to do MLB.com, though I really don't subscribe to their ratings. I think that they are probably the worst at rating prospects for MLB teams. But my guess, unfortunately, if we're looking at a duo of Chapman and Bregman, is going to start with Jonah Tong. Because I think Jonah Tong is probably the most hyped prospect in the Mets system at this moment. He leads all of minor league baseball in strikeouts. He has thrown something like 70 innings this year and has like 106 strikeouts. So I'm thinking they're probably going to start by asking for Tong. That is what most teams will be asking at a starting price for the Mets. That doesn't mean the Mets are going to give him up for anybody or maybe at all. But I think most teams will start by asking for him, only for the Mets to say, nah, not happening. But that is what I would think it would start at. 67 innings for Tong, 107 strikeouts. That is just ridiculous. Like, just insane what he is doing so far this year. 1.75 ERA in 13 starts. The kid looks like a stud. Obviously, he's only in AA, still has a way to go. But then you have Jet Williams that people are really split on. Like, a lot of people think he's going to be a 5-tool type of player. A lot of others say he's too small. That pop is not actually going to play in the big leagues. He doesn't really have a true position. He does some center field. He does some shortstop. He's so small, he might end up as a second baseman. So I don't know how I feel about Jet Williams as a prospect, but at the moment, according to MLB.com and according to many of the other baseball ranking sources, he is the Nets' number 1 prospect in their farm system. So to answer your question here, Two Cats, if it was Chapman and Bregman, the Red Sox would immediately be asking for Jonah Tong. If we're talking just Bregman, that gets a little convoluted because he has the opt-out after this year. We just saw the report that John Heyman says that he is willing to renegotiate his contract with Boston. So he might like it there and might not even want to go in a trade. So I don't know exactly what it would cost in a just straight up trade for Bregman, but I'm guessing at the very least a top 5 prospect in the Mets system, and then probably someone in the lower level, maybe somebody like, I don't know, Nick Morabito or maybe Marco Vargas, somewhere in that 13 to 18 type of range. And that again is under the guise of, well, he may not resign, he may opt out of his contract after this year, and he also has the opt out after next year. As far as Aroldis Chapman, it's going to be dependent on the market. How many people are looking for relievers? Pretty much every team in playoff contention looking to go to October is always looking to add at least one reliever, even if they have the best bullpen in the world. We know that is what wins in October. So if it's just for Chapman, I think it's going to depend on how many teams are interested in him. But I could see it being something like, Marco Vargas, Blake Tidwell, even something like that. And I'm throwing Tidwell out there because he's the 14th ranked prospect in the Mets system. If I'm being truthful, liked what I saw from Tidwell the other day. Didn't love it. Probably still needs to develop a little more, but I'm not sure I see this guy as a starting pitcher in the Mets rotation one day. I could see him as a reliever. I'm not sure I see Blake Tidwell as a starter in the Mets rotation in the future. I could be totally wrong about this. Save this clip for 5 years from now when he's winning Cy Youngs for us. I hope I'm wrong, but that's the kind of cost that I think it would be to try to bring Chapman, the Cuban Missile, to Queens. So let's see. Two Cat says American League is garbage. How did the Twins go on a 13-game win streak and still be under 500? Detroit has the best record in ball because of a garbage division. The AL Central always has been and always will be a joke. The Yankees feast on it every year. They feast on each other. The Twins don't deserve a playoff spot in the Central because we all know that they are just going to roll over and die to the Yankees every single postseason. I'm totally with you there, Two Cats. Two Cats says Astros are winning the AL pennant again. Okay. I mean, that'd be pretty insane considering how much they have untooled with trading Kyle Tucker this offseason, losing Alex Bregman a couple years ago, losing Carlos Correa. Yordan Alvarez has been hurt and out for a big chunk of this year. Pretty insane if they end up doing that. Just speaks volumes about how good Houston is at just fielding good teams from within, not always needing to sign and re-sign big guys. Mets Talk with Hayden, great win, LFGM. Yes, sir. I really wanted to have that celebrate good times. Come on. I wanted that song to be playing when I started this because it felt like the Mets needed this win today so badly just to get this horrible feeling, this monkey off of their back. So pumped about it too, Hayden. Really nice. Roy Batty says, beating up on the trash teams is a good way for the Mets to get back into a winning groove. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I just want the Mets to get closer to that 17 to 18 games above 500 mark, right? And if it means that they are gaining ground in the division, that's awesome too. But in the end, I want this team to start playing better baseball against more formidable opponents. So it's nice that we have Pittsburgh coming up this weekend. It's nice that they could easily rip off all 3 of the games this weekend, but it won't matter much if they play the way that they have recently against the big boys when we do play them again. So when Philly's on the schedule again next, when Atlanta's back on our schedule again, when the Mets have to play the Giants inevitably and go out to the West Coast, we haven't seen the Padres yet this year. We haven't seen Milwaukee this year. All strong teams in the National League. The Mets will have to be playing a better brand of baseball. But for now, I am stoked to be playing the Pittsburgh Pirates this weekend. Thank goodness. We need a little soft landing spot for this team. So, guys, how are you feeling? What are you guys thinking right now? What is your overall thoughts on the Mets win tonight against Atlanta? Do you think that they can finish the job tomorrow and at least salvage the split with them here in this 4-game set? I hope so. Again, I think it's an awesome jumping off spot for them, especially with Pittsburgh coming up on the schedule right after that this weekend. Roy Batty says Atlanta. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Atlanta ? I don't know. Maybe I misspoke on something and I didn't catch it. But guys, let's take a look at the pitching matchup for tomorrow in the finale that we were just talking about. So last time we will have to play the Braves, I believe, until August, which I am more than okay with. Thank goodness. It is actually a night game. Okay, so I went into all of today thinking that tomorrow was a day game, but no, it's not. So we had Holmes pitching for the Mets tonight, and tomorrow the Braves will have Holmes pitching for them. We have Clay, they have Grant. So Grant Holmes, right-hander on the mound, looks like the most Atlanta Brave that I have ever seen in my life. Mullet and handlebar mustache. This dude grew up dipping on his porch right outside of Atlanta. There's no doubt about it, right? Look at this dude, right? Screams Atlanta Brave. But pretty solid numbers this year. 16 starts, 3.71 ERA over 85 innings. In his career last year, he was the rookie, 3.56 ERA over 26 starts. So looking like another one of those Atlanta Brave pitchers that comes up and just starts shoving. So hopefully the Mets will have a chance against him. And then going for the Metsies tomorrow is Griffin Canning. Canning, much better time his last start than his one before that. Against Philly, he goes 5 innings, gives up 3 earned runs, walks 2, but it was far better than what he did against Tampa Bay in the series finale of that one. Canning ended up just going 4 1/3. He walks 5 batters and gives up 6 earned runs. So when you put it all together, obviously Canning's start against the Braves his last time out was far, far better than the one that he had against Tampa Bay before that. But overall, we're looking now hopefully for a trend for Canning, who had a little bit of a rough patch there. I don't think that start against Atlanta was all too bad. Hopefully he can string together another solid one here, but for the season, 7-3, 3.91 ERA. We got Montas back, who pitched really well yesterday. We'll see if that keeps up. Kodai Senga just said in an interview earlier this week, he's feeling really good. He's ready to start throwing again as soon as he gets approval from the training staff. And then Sean Manaea, despite having those loose bodies in his elbow and receiving a cortisone shot, still on track to return here for that Subway Series over 4th of July weekend with the Yankees. So it hasn't exactly been a case of weathering the storm for the Mets. It's been more like a shit storm for the Mets over these last 2 weeks, and they have put us through the ringer. I have pulled my hair every which way conceivable and have wanted to light things on fire. But hopefully this is the other end of that tunnel. The Mets are hopefully able to get the win tomorrow and getting some health back from both the rotation and from the lineup. And we will see what type of additions that David Stearns makes as we get closer to the deadline. Guys, what is going on? How you feeling? I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. That is just a quick little preview of tomorrow's game. What do you think? Predict tomorrow's score. Predict how it's going to go. Give me Griffin Canning's final line and how it all goes down. I want to hear from you guys. Appreciate y'all being in here. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe if you're not already. Daily Mets content, post-game recap after every game. And please be sure to give this video a like. It goes a long way toward helping the channel, so I appreciate that. And like I've said before, if you guys want to call in and be a part of the show, you can do that. Just go to the Discord in the description below. Mookie is trying to get in on the show as well, as you can hear. But I do want to hear from you guys in the chat. If you don't want to call, that's fine, no problem. But let me know in the chat, what is your prediction for tomorrow's game, the Mets and Braves finale? Give me Griffin Canning's line. Give me the final score. Tell me how it all goes down. I want to hear from you before we wrap things up. Let me get over here to the chat. Stefan HML, he's in our Discord. I'm awake, guys. It's 5:13. Yeah, we won. That's right, Stefan. You've said it before, so I think you'll be all right with me saying it, but you are in Amsterdam, if I'm not mistaken, correct? I know it is in the Netherlands, but I believe you said Amsterdam. So, guys, give some love to Stefan HML here in the chat. Mets fan all the way from the Netherlands. That is awesome. And it makes perfect sense because the Netherlands flag colors are blue and orange, right? Blue, white, and orange, I believe, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's why the New York flag is blue, white, and orange, because it had all the Dutch history behind it. So I'm going to just stop talking like I know what I'm talking about now. Okay, but anyway, awesome job by Stefan being up. Yep, there you go, my man. Appreciate you being in. That is so sick. Up at 5:15 in the morning, checking in to make sure that the Mets won. I love it. I love it. Mets fans are everywhere. It's super sick to see. Two Cats, Mets, bad play, been slightly concerning, but the Phillies had a stretch of 2-8 earlier in the season, 1-9 more recently. That's what happens in 162. that is probably too level-headed for you to be a Mets fan. Okay, Two Cats, I think you're a little suspect because no Mets fan is that level-headed. Okay, that was way too even keel of you to say, way too rational. But yes, you are right. It's hard to think that way when the Mets are going through that horrible stretch that they've been going through recently, but it is true. The Phillies have had stretches like this. I can't say the Braves ever have, but they started the season 0-7. Do you know what Mets fans would be doing if we started this year 0-7, 6 games under 500? So it happens to every team over 162. But hopefully they've weathered that storm enough and they're going to get back on track at this point. I am sweating. It's so damn hot in my apartment, guys. Oh my God. Oh. All right, let's see. Dodgers been swept by the Angels, lost to the Marlins, Nationals, etc. Mets are going through their bad stretch right now. That's all. I think what frustrated us the most about this stretch, though, was that it was coming at the expense of the Braves, who obviously gained 4 games on them now at this point. And then, of course, losing 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. And also the way all these games were going down, where it was like lifeless offense, getting 2-3 hits a game sometimes. It was the starting pitching wouldn't do the job, and the next day it was the bullpen not doing the job. So I think it was mounting frustration from all of those things. You lose 7 in a row, it doesn't matter who it's to. Mets fans are going to go batty, right? But when you lose 7 in a row and you lose 10 out of 11, and a good chunk of those come to the Braves and to the Phillies, it's almost impossible to walk Mets fans off of that ledge. So obviously not a great stretch of baseball from the Mets, but hopefully they have finally turned that corner. And I think it is crucial that they do win tomorrow and get the job done. Split this series. It will almost feel like a series win after you drop the first 2 and then go out to Pittsburgh and take care of business like you should against a lowly Pirates team without Paul Skeens on the mound for them in any of those 3. So, guys, I think that is going to do it for tonight. This was almost euphoric. All right, almost felt like an out-of-body experience for the Mets to actually beat the Braves in 2025. I can't believe it, but dreams do really come true. I can't believe it. No, but really, it's just 1 win. Hopefully they do take care of business tomorrow. And we'll be right back here with another post-game recap after tomorrow's game between the Mets and the Braves. So I want to thank all of you guys that are sounding off in the chat. Nico, Everyday Mets, D-Rels, Jimmy James C. Let's see, Jose Lopez Moya, who I missed, by the way. He said, pitching-wise, the Mets' problem is that their starters run out of gas by the 5th or 6th inning. Yeah, unfortunately, too many pitches. That's part of the problem. It's also partly because Braves line up like the Braves does a really good job of working at bats, working counts. So I can't necessarily blame Montas for only coming back now and having his first start and only going 5 innings, but Mets pitchers definitely need to go deeper into these games. I'm with you, Jose Lopez Moya. Thank you to Absol. Thank you to Robert Lupinacci. Thank you to Ben Early. Thank you to Two Cats. Thank you to Mets Talk with Hayden. Thank you to Roy Batty. Thank you to Stefan HML all the way from Amsterdam, my man, Pots and Pans, up at 5:30 in the morning to check in on the Tony Metro stream. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else that has been watching and sharing this with their friends and family. If you have a Mets fan in your life, send them this link, have them subscribe, have them like this video. I appreciate it. Again, we'll be right back here on my channel tomorrow at the conclusion of Mets Braves Game 4 tomorrow evening. So until then, I am Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.